And the first item on the agenda, as always, is accentuate the positive.
Good morning. Thank you everybody for being here at Talent Middle School this morning. We're really excited to have you and host. We always like these day meetings because it's nice to see people when the sunshine is out and we're all fresh and rested. So a couple accentuate the positives we want to go over. Last week, our sixth graders began the transition process as they start to think about attending Phoenix High School next year, which is always very exciting for everyone. High school came over here with a visit from the Phoenix High School link leaders, the counselors, and staff. And we were really, really impressed by how engaged our 8th grade students were during the visit and how the Phoenix High School students did such a great job connecting with our students and making them really excited about their journey to come. So thank you to PHS, link leader students, as well as the PHS counselors, as well as Carolina Campbell and Erica Ochoa for making this visit happen for our students. It was a great way to kick off this transition. We also have had several field trips in the last couple of weeks, and we really appreciate all the effort that goes into that because we know it's not an easy thing to pull off. It was really exciting to see our students get to have these hands-on learning experiences. Our 7th graders, all of our 7th graders, got to attend a day-long science field trip to Blue Heron Park with our Salmon Watch program, and that was with Miss Stewart for science. And then yesterday, our two-way immersion students who are in Miss Mark's Ecology and Culture class had the opportunity to go to the Orts and Todd Woods with Nature Conservancy. So we really want to thank Terry Stewart and Aleda Mark for all their efforts to get our kids outside and learning and having such a nice time. Lastly, as you know, state testing has begun, but our students and staff are working really hard so that our students can show off what they know and what they've learned. And we've been really impressed with the tone that staff have set, as well as how seriously our students are taking the tests. And we're excited to see the results. We also just want to thank all the staff for, we know it's a big undertaking. It can sometimes create stress, but it feels overall like it's been a really very calm and comfortable atmosphere. And Richard Bird, our librarian, and Jamar Boyd have done a great job of really leading the efforts to support teachers this year with that. And then, of course, we want to thank Andrew Kemp and his second period class. They'll be joining us, some 8th graders from his English Language Arts and Social Studies class. They'll be joining us here in about 10 or 15 minutes to interact with the board. And we want to thank them for their preparation today. So I'll pass it off to Kaylin.
Good morning, board. I just want to highlight a couple of really great things that are happening on the pirate ship. We had some awesome PD yesterday that our instructional coach or engagement specialist planned for our staff. We had the majority of our staff at an AI training. We continue to just embark on that journey at the high school. Right now we're running a Brisk, which is the product, a pilot at our school until May 17th. Thank you to Tiffany for her help in making that happen. And so our staff was getting trained on that yesterday and just continue to be revitalized and renewed by the possibilities of, expanding their capacity, especially in the spring, and really excited about that technology. We also had a student talk PD opportunity that our math team engaged in, and just how we get students to talk more about math and have the teacher talking less in the classroom. We also had a GIM-KIT or gamifying PD opportunity that a couple of staff engaged in yesterday too. Just really awesome things, especially it's April. Normally we're kind of crawling a little bit, but instead we're seeing just us being renewed and revitalized by these PD opportunities. So shout out to Alyssa and Barber for that. We are also planning our future Pirate Night for next week. We're really excited. Shout out to Erica and the team for making that happen. We've invited our incoming 8th graders and their families. We're really excited about that. I also wanted to share our projected 93% 9th grade on track number, possibly 94, but I'm going to say 93 right now to be safe. And we're looking really good for seniors yet, but I'm not ready to totally tell you projected numbers. We continue to work with them, and they're working very hard, and their families are very invested. So I'm excited to share that progress soon. And then also I wanted to shout out to Tammy Ingwerson, who is just leading the charge in our forecasting and registration at the high school. As you know, around 700 students is a lot to get all organized, and she's doing a phenomenal job with that. Also, shout out to our student resources, our advisors, and our link crew and our link crew coordinator for making just the transition really seamless. I wanted also to share some things about activities and athletics, so I'm going to pass the mic over to Dave.
Thank you, everybody. One quick follow-up. Today is Ford Scholarship Interview Day, and we've got 6 kids interviewing for Ford Scholarship, so we're really proud of that. It is a big weekend. You know, they say if you build it, they will come, and Mr. Cornett went without a track and field facility for 5 years, so he's making the best to utilize this facility. We had a meet on Tuesday till about 8 o'clock, and then tomorrow night we have the start of our big invitational that'll continue on Saturday, and then for good measure, next Wednesday, we have another conference track and field meet. Tomorrow, we're going to host the state masonry championships. So Mr. Ford has really worked hard through our CTE program. We're going to be the state champ because we're the only team competing in it. And we like those odds. We're going to hang a banner. I don't know if it's going to be made out of cement or not, but we'll see how that all goes. So lots of good stuff going on. And next week, if anybody wants to come over on Thursday afternoon, starting at 4:30, we're going to host Unified Soccer. And if you've ever been to one of our Unified events, it is amazing. Our SPED department combines with our Gen Ed group of kids, and they compete in athletics together. So we'll have North Medford and Crater over for soccer next week. Thank you. 4:30, Sarah, at the stadium. Yep. Who's going next? Mr. Santi.
I want to be on the masonry team. Good morning, board. Happy to be here representing 3 different schools today. So I'm going to be chatting for a minute. So in terms of Phoenix Talent Rising, this year we opened up our Friday in-person science and art classes to our middle school students. Previously just been our elementary students. So they've been coming in and acting as mentors, working with them, also doing the projects. We've discovered some really great artists in our middle school group, but they've also been helping our elementary kids, so that's really fun to watch. Secondly, want to recognize next Wednesday as Administrative Assistant Day. Our classified employee, Danny Goodwin, she's our office manager, attendance specialist, registrar, and instructional assistant, among others. She's really the kind of the heart and soul of PTRA, so she keeps us all on track in terms of our families and our staff and our students. So I want to thank her for all the work that she does every day. I am also going to share some Talent Elementary positives. It's been a busy week at TES. They kicked off the week with a site council meeting, diving into their equity data and offering actionable recommendations for improvement efforts. Many thanks to staff, parents, and Javier who participated in that work. Yesterday, they hosted Kinder Launch. They were able to host 30 new little friends who showed up, and they know of several more who will be attending as well. So it's a promising sign for enrollment for them for next year. And then finally, tonight, they're hosting the annual Dia del Niño celebration. It'll be back at Talent Elementary School. I know it's been away from the school for a few years, but it's back at school this year. It'll be from 5 to 7 tomorrow night. They'll have activities including face painting, balloon animals, dancing, singing, and even a soccer clinic from some of the PHS soccer players. So come on by. You can enjoy some tamales, beans, rice, and shave ice. I don't know why shave ice is in the mix there, but enjoy it. And then finally, for Phoenix Elementary positives, they also had Kinder Launch as well as the other elementary schools last night. They had 31 families show up, so that's great news. They had energy. The energy when families and students are approaching this transition is just special. So a big shout out to their staff for creating a warm and welcoming environment. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to work with Amplified trainers who are supporting our ongoing curriculum implementation. As you can imagine, it can be intimidating to be observed. So kudos go out to Amy Hartley, Jennifer Mohat, Abby Busick, Faith Milton, and Zoe Boyles for welcoming 5 adults into their classroom to witness their intentional focus on reading strategies. Our observations and debrief discussions were powerful as well. So thanks to those folks. And that is it. I will pass it over to Kent.
This makes me a little nervous. I feel like I'm missing a meeting or something, like maybe I shouldn't be here. But anyway, Kent Valera, I'm the lucky guy that gets to be principal at Orchard Hill. Good morning, everybody. Last Wednesday was a really, really great day at Orchard Hill. I want to thank, I know Joe's, I want to thank Joe for his help. I hope you all had a chance to see the little video that he published of our kickoff of the big game, Orchard Hill versus the S-back. And thanks to our PTA, Brad Nelson, they donated $2,000 so that all of our 3rd through 5th grade players have a jersey. All of our coaches in the classroom have jerseys, and our kids are well staged to do very well at it. I want to thank Diane Wolf. She did the design here, and it's not easy to order the exact right sizes of shirts for every 3rd, 4th, and 5th grader and adult in the building. But she did it with a smile and did a very good job. So thanks very much, Diane. I also want to publicly thank Lori Fuller. I swear she has a closet at home with just a bunch of costumes. Every time there's an event, she wants to dress up for it. Yesterday, she donned our new Orchard Hill Hawk costume for the kindergarten launch. And obviously, when 5-year-olds go see those kind of mascots, it's pretty funny to see the interaction. But she's a good sport and always willing to do those types of things. I know you guys probably know a lot about this program, but I want to thank Katie McCormick, Ashley Sims, Jamie Cross, and Kat Paris. They do our Girls on the Run program at Orchard Hill. And man, as you know, I was former middle school principal. I really think it's important for kids to come with a strong sense of self and courage when they make that transition from elementary to middle school. And that program is awesome. So I want to thank them publicly for their hard work. And that's it. Of course, Javier Del Rio, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Yep.
I was so quiet. Good morning, board. I just wanted to go back to something that Aaron was talking about. I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of instructional rounds, but I imagine you have seen in movies of you have maybe been in a teaching hospital where you have like people who are learning to be doctors and they're walking and they do a thorough examination and they're learning through the process. Yesterday, we walked in with 5 individuals with clipboard or reading curriculum, and we walked into those 5 classrooms and we're putting data and looking at strengths and ways in which the teachers were actually implementing the curriculum that you spend money on. Thank you. And it was just really powerful. It was powerful being there, and it was powerful seeing the vulnerability and honesty that those teachers were expressing. And we learned so much from them that we can now think about our professional development and what's next for this particular group of teachers based on the feedback that they gave us and based on those observations. So imagine doing your work and having somebody present watching you for about 45 minutes. It's intimidating, and it was really special. We learned a ton. So I just wanted to give out another shout out to those teachers: Faith Milton, Zoe Boyles, Amy Harley. What were the other 2? Jennifer Mohat and Abby Busick. So thank you.
Good morning. Amy Hans here, food service. And thank you for having me here today. I know this is becoming a repeat thing for me, but I would be remorse if I didn't thank John and his team again for all the extra work in the kitchen they have continued to do. Beyond just the remodel job that they finished up at the 2 elementaries over the spring break, John's team, both custodian and maintenance, also did extra servicing and cleaning of cooler fans, ice machines, and pressure washing food service equipment. I also want to thank Tiffany Lambert, Maria Lee, Yasmin, and especially Debbie Rogers for all their hard work in helping make sure the summer food service program is ready for our community this summer. I'm happy to say that we will have 2 open hot sites for the community this summer, as well as closed enrolled sites for the additional programs that we will have happening this summer. I also want to recognize everyone's help in the Future Chef event. It's always such a great event, and it wouldn't be possible without the help from my Sodexo staff, judges, Chef John and his high school student helpers, and especially Joe for his wonderful PR and photo help. We had several media press releases. We were in the news a couple times. So it was really a big, successful job. And, you know, Joe really puts out the word for me and helps get everything spread in the community. And coming soon, hopefully you guys will see in the community, we'll see Joe will be sending out our second for this school year customer service satisfaction survey. So we're going to do a spring 2024 satisfaction survey, and I really hope everyone takes the time to complete it. It takes like 5 minutes, and that information is really, really helpful for helping us collect that data and improve our services in the future. Last, I'd like to invite everyone to the elementary school for lunch this Monday to enjoy a day with a special dessert in recognition for Earth Day. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Anything from the board?
I would like to say thank you to Joe. Joe shows up in all the places and all the things that happen and allows me to, if I am working or something, participate in a different way. And I just want to say I'm so grateful for the videos, the social media, and everywhere that you show up in the world. And I'm really grateful for you.
You're here. Anything else? I'd just like to welcome our students. Thank you for joining us. It's an honor to be here during the day and get to see your faces. We have a couple more items on the agenda, and then we will get to your awesome questions. So, and how long do we have them for? Half hour. Okay, perfect. Okay, next is citizens' comments. Did we have any citizens who aren't students or staff here to speak before the board? I don't believe so. Okay. Student representative report. Garrett is our honorary member today.
Well, if I'm being honest, I do not have much to talk about other than our school's track and golf teams had a meet. Our track team had their meet at the high school, and we went over for golf to Roseburg up in Bar Run, and it was very nice up there. And our school's volleyball team also had a game. Not entirely sure how it went. I think we won, but and my other thing I'd like to talk about is our school's Brain Bowl. We won our conference Division B at 66 to 44 or 41 against Mazama, and we were able to take home our little plaque. Oh, also recommend you guys 8th grade, right? When going into the high school next year, join as many things as you can. Scavenger hunt, Brain Bowl, speech and debate. You get 4 years and then you're done. I did all these things on my 4th year and I regret I didn't start my freshman year.
Good advice. And congratulations to the Brain Bowl. It's always good to beat Mazama at something. All right. Superintendent report, Mr. Barry.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Campbell. And Garrett was a part of that Brain Bowl conference champ. So we'll see where those banners are hanging here soon too. So just want to highlight a couple things. Summer Learning Grant, as we shared, we are part of that this year. Not every district in the state was awarded that grant, but I want to thank Maria Lee, Charlene Patton, Tiffany Lambert, all their work in organizing, many team members, John, Amy, Janelle with food service and transportation is a huge undertaking. Tiffany completed the grant and with all of our partners as well. And even those districts that received the money, there were some complaints on the process, and in true PTS Rising fashion, Tiffany and team just got it done and submitted it almost a week early. So just really want to thank her and her team for that. Talent City Council meeting, as you know, was canceled last night due to a fire, and very fortunate that it wasn't worse. And so they caught it in time, but that building needs to be mitigated a little bit and see what's going to happen there. City Manager Gary reached out to me and put some dates forward. They want to do that as soon as possible. Wednesday and Thursday are possible dates. We're looking at our consultants to see when they're available. So we'll let people know as soon as possible. And as we get closer to that annexation, it brings up our facilities have changed, and we haven't done a long range facility plan since really 2017, 2018. There is a state grant that you can do to help facilitate that process. And John is going to look at that next year to go through that when all of our seismic and bomb projects are done and moving into the Culver Road facility. So he is all over that. I attached in your information the Oregon School Facility Management Association quarterly publication. John sits as the president of that association too. I don't know if you know that, but we have many people in our district and board that take on statewide leadership, and John's doing that in facilities too, which is awesome. But Andrew Valdelis, EES, was highlighted, and it was a great question and answer. So hopefully you get a chance to see that. Finally, I just want to talk a little bit about Kinder Launch last night. Thank you to all the team members that did that, such smiling faces, parents, families, kids. It was really cool. And something that came up on that, we have a preschool, Ivy School, that we partnership with. And it's a preschool promise organization. And we've had that at Talon Elementary this year. We had families from out of district that are going to preschool promise there that want to get transfers into Talon Elementary. So that is paying off huge. And we will probably double the capacity of our preschool next year if things come to fruition. So wanted to share that. And with that, we do have transfer slots and board action or for information and discussion next meeting. We'll be moving that to action because we want to make sure we take advantage of those families that want to come into our district. So. And with that, I have a commitment at SOU at noon, and so I might have to scoot out early if we're not done by 11:30 or 11:40 or so. Thank you. That's my report.
Thank you, Brent. And there is you'll also notice in the packet, there's a collection of news stories that's been in the the district in the news. And I saw a couple things in there I didn't know about. So I really appreciate, Joe, you putting that together. Thank you for that. Okay, well, welcome, students. So good to have you. And you are the reason that we're here, the reason that we do this work. So it's so great to get to see you and interact with you. I thought what we could do really quickly is just briefly introduce ourselves and just how long we've been on the board, and maybe anything you want to share about your connection to the school district briefly. I highlight briefly because I want to make sure we get to these 5 awesome questions that we have. And so we want to start at the other end, Rebecca. We'll start with Sarah.
Hi, Sarah Crawford, on the board since 2016, 3 graduates from, and just really love being a groupie, love coming to all of your stuff. My husband coaches baseball for the district, so I'm at baseball quite a bit, and but invite me to all the things because I love the band and the theater and everything. So just really happy to be part of this district in this role, and yeah, that's me.
I'm Dawn Watson. I've been on the board since, I don't know how long, like 11 years. And I had 2 kids that have gone through the district. I really enjoy this district, and I think that's it.
Yeah, my name is Rick Nagel, and I've been on the board since 1999. So that's, I'm in my 24th year of service here. I'm a graduate from Phoenix High School. I attended Talent High School. I was a Bulldog at one time. And you're the reason I'm here.
I'm Polly Fairmont, and I also went to the Phoenix Talent School District. I have 2 daughters that graduated from this district as well. Next year, I'll be on the board 4 years.
And my name is Michael Campbell. I've been on the board since 2020. I have a first grader at Orchard Hill. And my wife, Mrs. Campbell, is the Link Crew coordinator and teaches at Phoenix High School. So if you guys are 8th grade, right? So you will be a part of Link Crew, and I really encourage you to dive into that and participate in all the great things that Link Crew does to connect you with the high school. So super exciting. Well, thank you so much for being here. We'll just dive right in here to your questions. So I believe we're starting with Emma. She's absent. Okay. I'm sorry, I missed your name. Haley. Okay, awesome. We'll get you a microphone here so we can. By the way, Mr. Kim, thanks for bringing your class in today. We appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
What specific qualifications?
We didn't decide who was going to answer questions, but. Okay, so specific qualifications. So this is really interesting because there are the sort of legal qualifications, and then I have a lot of opinions on the things that aren't written in the law about what it takes to be a good board member, but I'll start with the legal stuff. So the first thing is you have to be a resident of the school district for at least 1 year. You have to be at least 18 years old. And that's pretty much it. And a registered voter. Okay. Yeah, good to know. Yeah, those are the specific qualifications in terms of like what's on paper if you want to sign up to run for school board. One of the things that I'll just step on my soapbox to say really quickly is I believe an important qualification of a board member is that you are able to put kids and families and staff and community before any specific agenda item that you might have, that you can look at the school district as a more big picture perspective, and you don't just run for school board because you don't like one specific thing that's going on. I think it's an important thing to think about. So great question. Thank you. Alan? Nice hat, Alan. Go Dodgers.
What does being a school board member mean to you?
I love serving students in this role. I will say that I did come to the Phoenix Talent School Board with an agenda, and that was to get a pool. But then as I have served in this role, I've realized that I wasn't supposed to do that. And so what was your question? Because I got distracted by my own self. That's what happened. Oh, what does it mean to me? I really love serving students and families, like Michael talked about on his soapbox. You really start to see from a big picture how roles that school board members have can impact the education that you're getting in a classroom. So from advocating at the state level to have better and more stable education funding, that's you start to learn as you spend some time in this role what you can do and what who you can talk to and what levers you can push to get better student achievement for all of you. So that's what being a school board member means to me. It didn't mean that when I started, but that's what it means to me now.
She still wants a pool, by the way. Yeah. We all support her in that. Did you want to share something, Polly? Okay. Go ahead, Rick. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
What it means to me is I believe in the public school system as I think very highly of the public school system. It educates more people across the country than any other thing, and versus say private schools. And so this is my opportunity in where I live to be part of that public school system. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here. I also, I believe I graduated from Phoenix High School. I went on to college. I had a profession, and this is my way of giving back to my community. So that's another aspect of it.
Thank you very much. Okay, Shaylin, did I pronounce that right? Shaylin?
How do you deal with disagreement within the school board?
I saw this question. I really want to answer it. Are you surprised? Why are you laughing? Um, so I feel like this is one of the best things. I'm a newer member on the board. Rebecca and I are probably some of the newer members on the board. When I came here, I felt so comfortable that I could share how I felt about any issue with the board. And it didn't matter whether we agreed on it or not, but we always listened to each other and were able to be in a safe space, even in a public meeting or in private, to share how we feel about those things. And I am so grateful for that in this role. And also, we have to do a lot of prep for these meetings. There's a lot of reading that we have to do, a lot of policies that we have to look at. And we come here prepared, and we might have a really good idea about how we're going to vote or what we're going to do. But sometimes, for me personally, I'll hear what someone else says about that, and it will change my mind on how I felt about that because I didn't know information, I didn't have information, or maybe I was thinking the wrong thing about something. And I want to point out, like, Rick has been here a hot minute, and it's great to have his knowledge about what's happened in our district. And I'm so grateful for him and our discussions that we have about policy and things that happen here. So we are very lucky because we go to different conferences where there's board members from around the state and also in the country. We are lucky to have a board that gets along with each other and have a safe space to share with each other. So when I saw this question, I really felt passionate about that. So sorry.
Well said. Anybody want to add anything?
I just want to say too that not coming with your own agenda, but also as a board, we speak with one voice. So there's 7 of us on our board, but when the board makes a decision, that's the one voice. And so whether we maybe agreed or disagreed with how that's being implemented, we then come and support the decision that was made as a group, as a whole, because this isn't about us as individuals. This is our voice collectively speaking to the best for students as one voice. So I think it's also important to recognize when sometimes we may have different perspectives or viewpoints or opinions, you know, based on what's happening. At the end of the day, we support the decision made by the board as a collective.
Well said. Thank you. Maisie.
How long does it typically take you to come up with a decision for a problem or issue, and what does the process typically look like?
Such a good question. And do you want to take this one, Doc?
Try my best. So the answer is it varies. There's some things that I think I've been working on since I've been on the board for 11 years, still trying to find a solution, and the solution, it changes all the time. Sometimes things are pretty easy to, it's like cut and dry. Oh, we can do this. But a lot of the times, it just depends on what the challenge is. And I think we have a great district and a great board that does a lot of research and tries to come up with solving problems. I think we have a great solving problem mindset on this board. So as soon as we can, we try, but sometimes there's some challenges that take a long time, or sometimes that are out of our hands, like annexing some property or trying to get the softball fields into the City of Talent. That has taken a lot of time. For me, it's like, hey, let's do this, but things sometimes take a lot of time. And so I think research and patience is a very important thing.
The other thing I would say is that, just to add to that, is this board very much values the input from the people that we represent. So the term is typically used as stakeholders, people who have a stake in the decisions that you're making. And that can really depend on the process as well, is how much time do we need to take, and we'll take as much time as we need to gather information and opinions and thoughts from the people who are going to be impacted by the decisions that we make. And so that's one reason sometimes decisions can take a long time, because they require the input from many, many people. And education in general loves committees. So that's often a part of that whole process. Good question. This is probably the hardest question for last. Caden.
What is the hardest decision you've had to make?
So I was thinking about this, and the district has an equity policy. And that was and I want student learning for all. And so, but I was struggling with the verbiage in our policy. And so that took a long time to dissect for me. And lots of conversations with my board members, some here now, some previous who aren't on the board now, with different community groups that I'm involved in, with different staff members. And so that was a hard decision to make, because I was the only one that voted no against the equity policy because of that verbiage. So when you're standing up for something that you believe in, but then I still support the equity policy. So that's part of one of the examples of we may have how we come to the table, but we then support as a group. So that was the hardest decision that I had to make. And I am appreciative of the equity committee in putting together it's an AR, right? A policy an administrative rule, right? Thank you. It's all of the acronyms. Welcome to education. It's all the acronyms. An administrative rule that really outlines how that gets implemented. And I was very supportive of that, and thankful that they put an action plan to how to implement that policy. And so I would say that was the hardest decision as a school board member that I had to make.
Did you?
I'll jump in on this. You would think with 24 years experience, there would be several hard decisions. But really, no. Every decision we make, we have to make it. And so once we wrestle with the issues, we make a decision, it's done. And we can always revise it if it's not what we want. So I don't think of any hard decision, although it must have been.
Yeah, I think, this isn't not to bring up dark times, but, and it's not necessarily one decision, but COVID was really tough. I know it was tough for all of you. I think you were in 4th grade then, right? So you're towards 4th or 5th grade? 5th grade, yeah. That was a tough time, because we were very limited in our power of what we could do. And we had, understandably, a lot of upset parents and family members who wanted schools open and wanted kids in school and not learning on a remote screen. We also had to balance that with safety and health of our kids and our staff. There was a lot of interesting things coming down in terms of what we could and couldn't do and at risk to our own personal, I mean, if we decided we weren't going to listen to the state and we were going to open school, we could be held accountable personally, financially, and otherwise, making a decision like that. And then we also had a lot of understandably upset community members who didn't quite understand all those details and all those things. And so that was a really, whenever you have issues where you have very conflicting opinions about a particular topic or something going on in the world, that is very difficult to manage because we live in a diverse community with lots of different backgrounds and viewpoints on things. And so, I think the most important thing, much like we do with each other in listening to understand, and being respectful and acknowledging people's humanity, those are the things that we leaned on to get through that. But that was rough. It was rough for all involved. And so I'm very thankful that we're back in school now and that while COVID still exists, that was a tough time on kids, on families, and certainly on staff and school board members too.
I want to say one thing before they go. I want to recognize Mr. Kemp. Mr. Kemp taught my youngest daughter here at the middle school, and she now has graduated from University of Oregon and is working at the university now. I don't know if you knew that yet. You are lucky to have him as a teacher. He impacted her life in a really positive way, and it was a hard time in her life because her parents were divorced, and it wasn't easy for her during the time when she was at middle school, let alone being in middle school is hard enough. But I want to recognize you, and I appreciate you, and also inspiring her to be in speech and debate and other clubs. And when she graduated in 2020 during the drive-through graduation period, and she was able to go to nationals for speech and debate, even though it was online. It was kind of sad because they couldn't compete in person, but I know that he started that fire in her. But I want you to know that you are very lucky to have him as a teacher. He's saying that he's saying that my youngest daughter started the club, but you encouraged them to do that, and that was wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that.
This is rare for us because, go ahead. Yeah. What you want to? I was just going to say, we do have, I think, a little bit more time. So if there's anything else that popped up for you a follow-up question or something that came to mind, feel free. We do have a couple more minutes.
Yeah, I just want to highlight what Garrett shared earlier is really getting involved. And Garrett's a student rep to the board, and we have 4 of them. And so there's going to be an opportunity for any of you to apply for that position, which really brings student voice. This board is committed to student voice when making decisions on policy and procedures and curriculum and things of that nature. So he shared get involved early. His experience, he got involved a little later and he regretted that a little bit. And so thank you for giving that advice, Garrett. That's very important. And with that, this board supports a lot of different programs and activities and athletics and knows that that's a connection to school. So there is going to be a lot of opportunities and this board is committed to continuing those. So thank you to the board and thank you to Garrett.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Sorry, I had to leave. My daughter goes to school here and she was sick. My name's Rebecca Weathers. I have 3 kids in the district, one graduate, one that goes to school here, and a Talent Elementary School student. I've been on the board since 2021.
Yeah, and I'm Brent Berry. I'm your superintendent. These are my 7 bosses. We are missing 1 board member here. But I serve the board to run the district, and I oversee all schools and staffing in the district. This is my 20th year. I was at Orchard Hill a little bit, and there might be some Hawks out there that were kindergartners at that time when I was there. But yeah, I love this district, and this is Denise. She serves as administrative assistant to the board and myself.
Can I add something? So, a lot of the things, some of the things that have come up, Polly had mentioned before her daughter, and she wanted to start a club. There's been a lot of things that have come up from students. We started culinary class because students asked for, we've changed our relationship with Sodexo and changed that. They work great with us because of students' request. There's a lot of things that we have done because of students' feedback. That's why we value our student reps so much. That's why we value these meetings. So if there's something that you think of that you would like a change, you can go to a teacher, a staff member, you can write the board an email. There's many things you can do, and we want to hear from you, and we want to change things that is going to help you guys want to come to school, get ready for your career, get ready, whatever you have a passion for, we want to help you find that. So if you ever think, I wish the school could do this, we want to hear what you wish the school could do. And usually when we have extra time, that's one of the questions I ask. What do you wish we could have at this school? So please let us know, let Mr. Kemp know, or whoever, because it's something that we really value.
It's our pleasure. Thanks for being here. Thank you. Great questions. Next item is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, any objections? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. Action items. Board meeting calendar 24-25.
Yeah, so I talked to our team. We talked a little bit about this last time. It does, I think we want to kind of try to see how it, the JAB meeting fits in January. It does give us a earlier in the year, a work session for the board. And like we shared last time, really a chance after the OSBA conference to kind of discuss and chat about it when it's fresh in our mind rather than that December meeting. So, so we did make those changes. You'll notice at the last meeting in June, Juneteenth is on the 19th. So we have that as a Wednesday meeting that week. And that's really the only modifications, I think. If you see anything that needs corrected, let us know, but that's up for your approval today.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I move to adopt the board meeting calendar for 24-25 as presented.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Polly. Thank you, Rick. Any discussion? I just want, yeah, go ahead. Do you have something? Oh, she's getting ready to vote. She's like, I know you're going to call on me. I just wanted to say I'm looking forward to having that work session in November after OSBA. I think that's going to be really awesome. So, and thanks to the staff for considering JAB and thinking about, we'll see how it goes. If it doesn't work, we'll move it back. Okay, Rebecca,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
I vote yes. Calendar is approved. We have a recess. Do we need to take a recess?
No.
Okay, let's keep going. Information and discussion, facilities bond update.
I don't have anything other than what I wanted to share for the long range facility planning coming up. So that's about it. And I think our teams can get back
Yeah.
to their schools.
Go do your jobs. Thanks for being here, everybody. Appreciate it. Okay, financial update.
We have a financial report for your review, and Yasmin just wants to highlight some of the things, and I think you'll hear some of the challenges as unpredictable changes. So I asked Yasmin to kind of share.
Hello, board. Hello, everyone. Yasmin Carabinas, Director of Accounting. And Denise already shared the financial report with you. On the one that you have for general fund, we had estimated a $9.2 million ending fund balance. But so we just got an update this morning from the state for the 22-23 state school fund estimates. And that one actually went down $291,000. So I just wanted to illustrate this to you, like, you know, I do my best to give you the best estimates with the information we have. But now that they made some updates to the teacher experience, and I guess they updated the ADM 11% cap for the SPED students, and ours went down by 6.1. So I imagine some other ones went down as well. So that variation on ADMW and other adjustments that they made, the funding actually went down by, instead of going up by 66 per student, it actually went down $16 per student from the estimate they had posted last year. So with all that, thankfully, you know, we had a little bit of extra that I had put on property taxes. I tried to put a little bit more just in case there's an adjustment of what I think the estimate is going to be for the year. And that helped us out. So it's gonna be only a net difference of $3,000. So from the, and I'll be happy to send an updated report to you guys. But basically the state school fund is going to be about 354,000 less. So it's an 18,356,000 estimate instead of 18,710,000. So that means that the estimated ending fund balance is now an $8.878 million instead of 9.2. So anyway, that's the big highlight right now for this. It's all changed. And like I said, you know, if you'd like me to go ahead and update the report, I can. Okay.
Before can I just say something before you go on? Just you know, if you heard the 22-3 adjustment ADM, and so that's why sometimes we benefit from like plus $66, and that's what we were going off. So sometimes we benefit that way. Also, it goes the other way. And this just came out this morning, and Yasmin goes, "Oh my gosh, we need to talk." It's like, that's how diligent she is and wants to provide accurate information to the board. I go, "You're just fine on that." But I asked her to highlight that this morning just because that's our reality. And we could go back another year on ADM sometime. So so that's the challenge. So we want to make sure we're you know, we're on top of that, and we know that could go either way. $200,000 is pretty significant. Luckily, we have a little bit of room this year, but there may be years we don't.
Is there a statute of limitations as far back as they can go?
It's only a year. They do a reconciliation in May or the May after the year is done. And so they only do 1 year. But, you know, the earliest estimate was already from April 9th. So I really didn't expect them to have another one. And so it was kind of surprising they had another one this morning. And to my surprise, it usually goes up a little bit. This time it went down. So that shows you that it's not always going up. You know, we can also have a diminishing funding on the prior year. Okay. So that affects the current year state school fund as well, because our ADMs were based last year on the 22-23 ADMW. And this year, same thing, is based on the 22-23 ADMW. Since it went down, then I also had to lower the estimates for this year. I assume, or I can expect for them to have another update before the May payment. And if they do that, then I have to also reconcile, and the numbers I just gave you is considered already 6.1 ADMW less for this year as well. Okay.
Yasmin, how does that work practically when they're doing a reconciliation for 22, 23? Do they send us a bill? Do they take it out of the periodic payments that they make? What does that look like?
So usually what happens is that they just, for our district, I think it's only been 1 year that I remember they actually took money back in 2016, I believe, or 2015. But usually we get that extra payment on the May payment, which is the last payment for the year, the state school fund payment. But yeah, that's what they do. Some districts, if they overestimated the high cost disability or the ADMs or the local revenue was actually much higher than what they had estimated, all those monies can come and hit you until the following year, and you can have a deduction of $500,000, $1 million, depending on the district. So yeah, that's when districts get on trouble sometimes. So as you can see, it's a bunch of moving pieces. We do the best we can with the information that we have, but we don't know what we don't know. Other than that, on the estimates, the comparison with January, property taxes looks like it's gonna be about 100,000 more than we have projected. And to highlight, the interest income is so high this year. If you see on the notes, and last year we received 356,000 in total, which is already pretty high. But this year is gonna be more than double at 730,000. So that extra revenue, 374,000, that shows you right there, it's great for our district. It's something we weren't counting on, but then it's also that it may just happen that next year it's not here for us. So we just have to be cautious when we do estimates. Other than that, let me see. Well, I was trying to illustrate as well that ending fund balance looks high, even with the adjustments at 20.7%. But if we are to deduct the monies that we have received from the ADM security grant, then it was at 1.8 million. It's actually less. It will be like at 1.5 million or 1.450 million ending fund balance at this point. Other than that, if you go to the next page, for the capital projects fund right now, it's about $300,000 less than when we started this year. We haven't had as many expenditures. So it's $4,585,000 through the end of March. And for the construction excise tax, it's also pretty even. It's actually a little bit higher than what we started at 332,000. Right now, there's a balance of 384,000. Last page is the ESSER expenditures. It just has the year-to-date expenditures through March and what our encumbrances are. So we do have a large balance still to spend. But if you look at the detail, most of that money, it's hopefully going to be spent during the summer before September 30th, when it is the grant ending date. And it's close to $4.6 million, maybe even higher. And we also made some adjustments. It looks like we're gonna be using about 80,000 for summer school. And other than that, we have encumbrances for the remaining positions that we have in ESSER. You have any questions?
You have a revised report? No.
I will send it. Yeah, like I said, it just came out at 7 o'clock this morning, came to work and looked at that, and huge difference. Like, Brand, I gotta tell you, I don't wanna stress Denise out, but this is happening. So, so I will send her a revised estimate.
At your leisure. Take your time.
Yes.
And just, I think I know the answer to this, but I think it's important to clarify. So with the ADM security grant that we have, that's only based on multiplying whatever amount they assign per ADMW by the enrollment difference, really. So if that per student amount changes, that doesn't necessarily benefit us in terms of the grant because it's just that number multiplied by however many students we would have had in 2019 or whatever it is.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the only thing that we have to look at is if our enrollment goes up by 100, let's say, then our grant is gonna go down. And vice versa, if our enrollment is lower, we're supposed to receive more of the grant, but it depends on if the legislature is able to give us more or supplement more of that grant money, which they had to do for 23-24. I don't know if you recall, or we were informed at the beginning that it was going to be much lower than we were told. And then they were able to change that amount and update it for us, which is great. And I'm hoping and expecting that that will happen also in the future.
Thank you so much.
You're
Appreciate
very
it.
welcome.
Yep.
Okay, so what information did the state look at from 22-23 to lower the allocation for high needs? Is it for high needs disability? Is it, I'm looking at Tiffany because I'm trying to remember the categories. And I'm just wondering if that's another legislative component that backdated. Is it something we need to be paying attention to and advocate for?
So Brent had also asked that question, and I asked it years ago, and they said, well, you know, it was a very convoluted kind of answer that I received. Like it's an internal calculation they make. They have a new person in charge of the state school fund, and she sent a very good answer to me, but it still didn't explain very well. They basically look at the whole state, and with the pot of money they have, they distribute according to students' needs. So then I don't know exactly what type of needs or disabilities they're looking into, but they just take that pot of money and then they distribute it to the district. So that's why ours went down. I don't know if it has to do with the number of students going down from whenever they had the calculation years ago. But that's the reason why we have a reduction. So they couldn't tell me exactly. I guess we'll have to ask maybe a request for information. Maybe they will release it to us to see why it went down.
It's a good, maybe a program report, I don't know, but it's a good question because we've had up to 70, I think 40%. I mean, it fluctuates so much, and so it'd be nice to, but advocacy is always good. 100% is 100%, so they don't have to necessarily see where they have that calculation.
Well, we're headed, Don and I, to LPC meeting
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'll ask somebody something. So,
I
and are
will
your
forward
associ-
that email
Oh.
to you, so at least you have the straight answer
Well,
that I received from the ODE, and then from there, maybe they'll release information, hopefully, to you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
My question was the same as Sarah's because I was looking at our question homework for Saturday, and we're talking about salaries. And so my question was the same as Sarah's or we're talking about budgeting, was what can we do legislatively to make sure that schools, I mean, it sounds like we're okay, but it also sounds like some schools may not be okay because of these changes. And so what kind of that was my think about what kind of legislative pieces would be great for us to advocate so that it's more consistent and we're not having end of year surprises and staff getting surprised and stressed out and oh my goodness, because luckily I appreciate how much you've done for us and we're not in that position but there's so many schools right now in a very vulnerable position that this is not okay to be surprised at this time of year. It's not. And so if you can think of legislative pieces that we can advocate for, please let us know.
Well, I would say, and I know they have personnel turnout over there, so then I don't know if that's the reasoning why they're doing this calculation so late. I wish they would do them more during the year and start updating. So when we get the last reconciliation before the May payment, they just do one and that's final. They're not like still trying to piece together the state school fund and then release very different estimates just a week apart. So that's what really threw us off. Well, yeah, if you look at this, whatever I was working on the budget, which was a similar ending fund balance of what we have, is actually 356,000 less, or 374,000 less that I had to consider going into next year as well. So yes, it definitely affects everything.
One of the things we've been talking about a lot recently is the cap on students receiving special ed services at 11% and how that is something legislatively that needs to be addressed in the state of Oregon to raise the cap and then also fund the difference. Is that something, if that were in place now, let's say the cap were 15%, is that something that would have helped in this scenario minimize the impact?
Absolutely. We have a large program, and when Brent shared the numbers with me, it's about 15.6% of our total student population that are in special education. They have an IEP. So if you see the gap, I think it was like 70 something students between they have the ones with the 11% plus the ones above the cap, but that amount it's not exactly the difference, of course. So it's about 70 something students, and that if you take it times the student ADM or the ADM per student funding, then it's about $780,000. So that's a huge gap right there that we could really help out districts.
And I
Because-
think sorry.
Well, I was just going to also mention to you guys, it's such a blessing that we received that ADM security grant, because otherwise we'll be in a very different situation. We'll be making cuts like Medford or some other districts around the state that are in huge trouble. So I think it's a great blessing, and we need to just account for that too, as well, going to the future.
You may be thinking the same thing I'm thinking. The reason that is important too with that double weight for students with receiving special services is our IDEA funding is just keeps on dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. And that's how Tiffany has to balance services and support and things of that nature. So yeah, that's federal. Yeah.
I was going to mention that the federal funding is way below what they promised in 1970, whatever that, and now full funding is actually 40%. It's just unreal. Like, where did full funding become 40% of what it actually should be? But we're at like 12% or something federally. So that's something to keep in mind when you see our senators, because, and luckily we do have a senator that is on the mission to raise this, but it is really important that we not only state, but federal is raised.
I wanted to mention too, like just addressing IDEA, to balance the budget and the allocation for next year. I can share with you that I had to transfer a teacher to general fund because there's not enough funding for next year. So that, 120,000 needs to be added to the general fund expenditures. So.
She was saying the ADM security was for state funding, and which still leaves us a gap in our federal funding. So, yes. Well, thank you very much and things happen that don't align with the board calendar. Believe it or not. But I appreciate you bringing that timely information to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, legislative OSBA update.
Goodness. I have a lot to say, and I'll try to make it briefish. You can always ask me questions offline. Next time when Javier and Nancy are here, I'd like to hear their thoughts and their adventure of NSBA. Javier did amazing. I have some videos and Nancy has some videos, and it was a great, and it was the first time that NSBA had a rural school summit, like a half day for rural schools. And I think that was very important. Hopefully Oregon is working with NSBA to continue support for rural schools. 20% of the schools in the nation are rural schools. So that's a big chunk of students that need to. So anyways, it was also interesting because Tim Shriver with Special Olympics, and he's also doing the dignity. He has this new dignity index about speaking with each other with dignity, using words that when we're arguing or we're having some differences, using words that is giving the other person dignity. It helps them listen better and communication better. You don't have to agree, but you don't have to call the person an idiot, basically is, but he also talked about Special Olympics because that's his family's passion and unified sports. And so it was really nice to hear him speaking about how Special Olympics started unified sports and how important that is to schools and that we are doing that. I also did a workshop with the federal government. And I sent the slides to Michael and Brent, but I can send them to whoever. And they have about safety, school safety. And they were like others that I have talked about before. It was like a holistic view of school safety, not just one thing, but a holistic view. And we're doing several of the things. We have our safety, but they have a lot of grants. Apparently, they have more grant money than is spent each year, that there's always money left over. And so that's something I wanted to put aware. They also will come in, they have someone in each state that will come in and do a walkthrough and let you know from like the holistic view. They'll go through, I can't remember what Tiffany's on that committee where it's proactive when there's a student that they want to, I forgot what that committee's called. Yes. And so they'll go through everything, different committees that you have, different plannings, fencing, everything, and let you know. It's really good because they also will go through it with a disability lens to make sure that students with disabilities, staff, they'll also talk about training, for trauma, how do drills affect students and how to make a drill the best way for not causing issues. There's also some talk about how do you inform everybody and make sure that you're not giving out too much information. So there's this big piece. They actually have a website dedicated to this, with a ton of useful information, with a ton of tools to help schools. And apparently the woman that spoke said, you know, they feel that they were there because not enough schools are taking advantage of this program and this site, and they really want schools. So I just wanted to put that out there because I know we've had a lot of talk about school safety, and I think that having a second opinion of the federal government coming in and looking at a holistic view of a whole bunch of things and then giving us ideas for grants, I think would be really great. Also, I've learned that the Dermatologist Foundation has some grants for schools having to do with shading and awnings and stuff. And so I wanted to bring that up because I don't know, but I know we're a great school that goes after every grant that we can. So I wanted to bring that to light because I didn't know that the Dermatologist Foundation gave schools grants for shade. And then there was Disney programs for art, and I thought that was interesting. And then they had some counseling supplements programs, which this one was pretty interesting as well. It was more of like a text where you could text a counselor or call, but if it was something that was immediate, they would also work with the counseling because we know that sometimes students can't get in when they need to, or we don't have enough counselors for students. So it was designed to be a supplementary counseling. And then if there was a immediate, they would work with the schools to make sure the student would get immediate care, or that, you know, if it was really emergent, to call 911. But I thought that was an interesting program. Also, while talking with Javi and others, I really would like to have a discussion at some point. This is my personal, about mentoring the student reps. It seemed I had some in-depth conversations with what they would like out of it. And so I'd really like to hear from the student reps about having some kind of mentoring type program to make sure Javi really liked presenting. He mentioned some of the other students really wanted to know more about policy. And so, it was great. I had some great conversations with him, and I think it would be something to see in a work session or a program report or something with the students to kind of develop maybe a more in-depth options for the student reps. And also, so for NSBA, there was about 80 some odd school board members from Oregon. There was some schools that brought their whole entire, the bigger schools that have money, like Oswego, they brought their whole entire board there. I don't know if that's something we can do, but but if we presented at NSBA or something like that, that might be to do. I just wanted to bring that out. There was some student reps that were just traveling there from Washington as well. So I thought it was really exciting. PACE, I got sick during the PACE meeting right in the middle, so I don't have much to report about PACE, but we had PACE Day. I think it's been amazing. PACE is really working hard on making sure that they're doing proactive trainings to make sure that that schools are not having lawsuits and challenges. I know that they're really working on making sure that one of their goals is to making sure next year that staff understands the importance of the trainings and kind of divide them up of these are minimal type trainings where like you can pay 0.5% or or whatever, you just have to do it. But there's some that are really important that you really need to make sure that you're 100% thinking about. And understanding the importance of some certain protocols and why they're important, not just like, oh, this is something I have to do every year. So they're trying to make some of those would be cybersecurity and SAM cases. We really want to make sure that people are thinking at the beginning of the year, the importance of those. And then Sarah and I are going to OSBA LPC meeting this weekend. OSBA is we're working on our vision and mission statements, and we're reviewing them. We're not working on reviewing them to get the board back on track, as we've been off track a little bit, but we're also going to be talking about making stronger supports for different districts, and then we'll be talking legislation. And so if you have anything, the main topics are budgeting and attendance, getting chronic absence, and then budgeting. So if you guys, and funding. So if you have any suggestions on that or concerns or things you would like change, please hit up Sarah and I, and this goes to staff as well. We will be having the meeting Saturday morning. So I think that's it, unless you want to add something, Sarah. Sorry, I talked so much.
Really appreciate the update. So cool that you and Nancy got to go with Javier to New Orleans. It's so great that he was able to share his voice in that setting and you were there to support him. I especially appreciate your update on the safety information. And I think that just goes to show you that there are going to be times, no matter what the topic is, where we're going to be faced with one singular solution for something that takes us down a path, when it's really important sometimes to step back and zoom out and look at things holistically. And I think safety is a great example for that. Real quick on going up to LPC and talking about funding, I think it goes without saying, and I know I sent an email to Carrie and Greg and Brent that you were copied on, but we have to fix the special ed cap thing. So I hope that's a big part of the conversation. I know that's something that's going to come up with the legislature, but as I said in my email, we have to hold their feet to the fire on that. That's just such a basic thing that needs to be addressed. So I hope that's a part of the conversation this weekend. Do you have anything, Brent? Okay.
I was just gonna say,
yeah.
I was in on a webinar that Senator Dembro, who's not running again, but he's been advocating for education funding. And one suggestion that he brought forth that I thought was interesting is increasing a percentage at a time, like, which I hadn't heard brought to the table versus a big jump that might be really hard to eat, one at a time. And I appreciated that perspective and probably will be banging that drum a little bit from that.
Better than nothing. I'll take it. Yeah, good.
I might just mention too, just based on, you know, the experience of Javier and the engagement of this board, we did mention that we would increase kind of some travel for the board. We have a modest kind of travel budget, and we kind of run through that at the state conference that everybody attends. So we're looking at increasing that. And when we have students have opportunities to be able to support that if it's not funded from another grant somewhere. So just when we do the budget, you'll see an increase in that.
And I really support that. In the grand scheme of things, it's a good investment, and I think has a huge return on the investment too. So yes.
I'm gonna call out Javi because he's not here, but
Yeah.
He called me while they were down there and he said, Polly, I know that I have been called to this because I can show up in these spaces and be a champion for those around me who look like me and are like me. And that individual, Javi, has made such amazing, like, I remember seeing him in DECA at state a year ago, year before this one, and him watching people on stage and saying to me, sitting next to him, I'm going to be up there. And he was, and he is soon, like within 2 weeks, going to nationals to compete. And also the state officer. So I just want to say a shout out to him that it has expanded his horizons hugely.
Awesome. Okay.
Go.
Yes.
If I may, one thing Don mentioned was this school safety report that you sent to Brent and Michael. I think Rebecca and myself would love to see that as well. So.
I can send it to the whole board. It is a slideshow and then has their website information, so I can send it to you guys and then I can try to answer any questions. I did take notes, but it's yeah, because sometimes slideshows work great and sometimes you read them and go, oh, but there's a lot of information on the website as well. So I will send that.
Great, because we're on that committee, so.
Well, I was in the break and I was sending it to Brett and I'm like, oh my gosh, there is like a ton of money out there. And I think she said 4 times, we never run out of money in this grant. And I'm like, well, sign me up. I'll sign up right now if I have to, but they did not let me. But anyways, that's, yeah, so I will send that to the whole board.
Okay, community recovery update. Do we have anything? You had
I
something.
just have real quick, the municipalities, maybe in the summer want to give an update on and long range recovery group. So maybe in that July kind of retreat work session-ish, we'll invite them to see if they want to kind of share a little bit. So it's always good to hear from our community partners, and we kind of have something on the agenda every year at that time, then we can kind of help support any recovery efforts. That's all I have. And I'm gonna sneak out.
Okay, thank you, Brent. Okay, science curriculum. It's exciting. Tiffany's living her best life when we're adopting curriculum.
All right, thank you, Chairman Campbell. All right, so you can see in your board packet that we are asking for 2 curricula for science at the high school, and I'll explain why. But I first want to thank Alyssum and Ellie and Scotty for really digging into high school science curriculum. It's a lot of work. They go to the caravans, but they really dug into our next generation science standards, piloted units from several curriculum programs with their students and got student feedback and then also usability for that. So it was a ton of work. So I really appreciate them doing that. They also are going to be taking time to go through the old boxes of lab materials to see what we need. And I don't know if you've ever seen that at the high school, but it was moved over from the old high school and it's a little scary. So I thank them for that. So the first one we want the board to consider adopting is Patterns. It's actually open source, which means it's free, which is my favorite price.
but the training would be quite expensive. It's developed by Portland Public Schools in the urban area in Oregon. So it's a curriculum made by teachers for teachers, and there's a great community of practice around the implementation of the lessons in science. It's available in English and Spanish, all online, but there are no districts locally in Southern Oregon using it, so the community of practice would require some travel. It's very rigorous. It does have a great tie to the indigenous and tribal cultures of Oregon, and it's the only curriculum that has land acknowledgements throughout the science curriculum, which we like. However, it is really for advanced, like more veteran, experienced science teachers, and we will be having 2 new science teachers next year. And so we'd also like the board to consider STEM scopes. STEM scopes is aligned to the next generation science standards. It was the highest rated curriculum that our students rated. They liked it. They thought it was the most engaging. It has a nice scope and sequence that the students can follow, and a more novice or beginning career teacher could have a nice, thorough representation of science throughout that program. It did pass in Oregon. The regular STEM scopes passed all of the Oregon requirements for adoption, but it's not available in Spanish. So we needed to look at the California version, which is why it's an independent adoption. I did a crosswalk between the California version and the regular STEM scopes, and it's actually very limited, not even a noticeable difference, except there are pictures of the state of California on every chapter, and it really does look at some California geography, which is funny because the patterns program looks at more northern Oregon. So we've got the northern Oregon, we got northern California, and we'll fill in the middle. But we think the combination of both, having both curricular materials adopted by the board, gives flexibility for the science teachers to develop as they get more experience, or to have a thorough program. We'd only be suggesting adopting the digital version of STEM scopes to keep it affordable. And there we go, both independent, which is the first time we've done this for a while, because of the open source and because of the California edition. Also, the California edition was cheaper than the Oregon edition, so I like that too. It's a good question, Sarah. I know about course sequencing. So it's not the role of the curriculum adoption committee to look at course sequencing. So what order do we offer courses? We got in it because we really looked at the standards, and we looked at our current data in science. And at our freshman failure rate, biology was one of the top courses that freshmen do not pass the first time they take it. So we wanted to really find out more. Also, when we looked at more advanced science, which was us, is physics, and getting into AP sciences like in AP environmental science, we don't really have a very diverse group taking those sciences, which we saw a dip in the upper level sciences after the pandemic. So we started to study the curriculum to see what we needed to do, and we realized that to be successful in career nowadays and in college, students really need to have physics. And we've considered physics to be more advanced science, but there's a really important physical base, as well as it's a lot of hands-on labs that aren't as abstract as chemistry and biology might be, especially like molecular biology. Like when we look at motion, we can really see that, and we can test like Newton's laws and such. So we started to ask around and see which districts were getting really good science results and passing rates. And we found that those districts in California that use STEM scopes and up in Portland were giving physics as 9th grade. We do have some concern about the math level, but we also know that we need to increase the rigor of our math. And when you apply math and science, that's how you really internalize the math concepts. So we recommended to the high school administration, and I just met with Brent and Kaylin and Tammy, who does the scheduling, about a transition program to offer physics first. We also have at our high school, a lot of 11th graders will take animal sciences and plant sciences as their science, and that is more closely tied to biology than right now replacing their physical science, which is what's happening. And Oregon has a 3-year requirement for science versus like California is only 2 years, and it has to be 3 years of a lab science. So by offering labs in animal and plant science, I think that could be an alternative to a really good alternative to biology but it's changing that scope, which will take us 3 years to do because some students have already taken biology as freshmen. So we were recommending, again, not our place, we were kind of stepping on some toes, but the high school's been very receptive to it, of offering physics, then chemistry, and then biology the junior year. And then seniors who decide to take AP Environmental Science or other like principles of technology or things could take more advanced science after that. So that's our recommendation. And again, as we dug into it, not locally, but districts in the state of Oregon and districts in Northern California were really starting with that physics first.
I seem to remember that maybe it's at middle school level, but more of an introduction to science was happening at the freshman level versus biology. Are most freshmen going into biology, or is there a more general science? Or is it nuanced per student probably, but broad brush for me?
We looked at all enrollments on this process, and students are going into 9th grade primarily in either biology or environmental biology. And so when we looked at the standards of environmental biology, they weren't as rigorous as a regular biology. So we wanted, again, we need to increase the rigor of science. So our thought as we have the opportunity to adopt materials was all students will have biology, or you can go higher. So there could be, you know, the rigor of next gen science standards, and then there could be honors classes. So we don't want to hold anybody back, but we also want to bring everybody up. Science is really important. Most careers that are, you know, higher paying will require some knowledge of science or advanced knowledge of science, but also just to live in our world and the curiosity of the phenomena that happens around us is really that problem solving and logic that science can bring. So that's the introduction to science would be environmental biology.
I'm sorry, going one more, which is how are we supporting this increase at the high school, at the middle school and elementary schools?
So we did science adoption for K-8 with Amplify Science not too long ago. We were off cycle because we had postponed before I got here due to financial reasons. So that's why this is the actual science year to adopt. So we do have the Amplify Science, which is very rigorous. And like honestly, at the elementary level, I'm not sure there's time to have science instruction every day, but the materials are there if we could look at the schedule. But at the middle school, they're getting more science instruction with a very rigorous curriculum. And it's just been a few years since we implemented that. So teachers are getting used to it, but I've seen it being used.
So that's a call for more instructional minutes.
Yes, especially at the elementary level, because we do know in order to raise our math scores and students' knowledge, I always used to tell my students as middle school math teacher that math and science are like BFFs, so we need to get that science application, but science is often what's sacrificed. If you don't have enough time between reading, math, and science, sometimes science is the one that gets behind, to be honest with you.
Other questions? I have a few. And by the way, I know it's a day meeting, so if anybody has to go, it's okay if you have to leave. We can what time do you have to leave, Chris? Till noon. Okay. Okay. Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll be as brief as possible. So just so I understand the vision, and I appreciate, by the way, the creativity, and also I think sometimes there's this tendency to like, I got to stay in my lane but to me, curriculum adoption has to work in concert with the class offerings and things like that. So I appreciate that innovation you did to step outside of that path. So the vision, just so I understand it, because the first curriculum doesn't have a cost for adoption, it's open source. the vision is to utilize the other curriculum that we're adopting to give our teachers an opportunity to, get comfortable and get things moving with the understanding that they'll be over time working with the folks in Portland to get up to speed on the rest of it.
Correct. And
Okay.
what Scotty is very experienced
Yeah.
using patterns that open source. They're just put in folders. There's so much information.
Mhm.
He's going to be off and flying, no problem, but we
Yeah.
just don't know who we'll hire. So
Yeah.
there might be some supplementing, but still getting into those communities of practice
Mhm.
to always advance.
Yeah. Okay. Um, digital only. I understand that there's a cost savings. Do you evaluate that and just how that, I mean, and I know maybe it's different for us because we're so used to paper and books and that would be a tough adjustment for me even today as much as I'd like to go paperless. Do you talk to students and teachers about that and just make adjustments as needed to minimize? I wouldn't want a student to be left behind or left out because we don't have physical copies of things.
It's a really good question. And yes, we do. In fact, sometimes like at the middle school, we ordered all the science journals. So they could do their lab reports and their journaling, and they're not using them fast enough. So they were like, stop ordering the paper copies. So there's that evaluation as well. But everything that's online can be printed is the big thing. So when we say digital only, it's not that we're not printing things. It's just teachers are printing the worksheets and the materials off. Versus ordering the books themselves. But the nice part about digital curriculum is it changes as there are more discoveries. And so it's always updated. So when you buy a book, some of our books we've had for, 15 years. I could show you some social studies books that would be scary. And we know things have changed in social studies. The same for science. They're always updated, but there is printing involved.
Yeah, and then the language accessibility is something we have too. So I just want to make sure, and I know printing is expensive too, but I never want a teacher to experience a barrier of, and I don't think we have like copy budgets necessarily. So if a teacher needs to print something for a student, they're able to.
They totally are. And
Okay.
everything's there.
Awesome.
It's also that digital version too nice for students with disabilities because both these programs have a read aloud feature too. So
Nice.
if it's just that text
Yeah.
barrier. And Kaylin mentioned the high school piloting an AI program that we can also, with the Google Docs that these are in, just go through that. We can change the reading level. So if it's at a 10th grade reading level, we could change that to a 3rd grade reading level
Wow.
or a 3rd grade reading level in Spanish,
Yeah.
just like that. So technology's really come along.
Wow, it's really interesting. The last thing I wanted to ask about, and Sarah touched on it, so thank you for asking the question of, sometimes, and I'm not saying you do this, but sometimes in education, we change things midstream and then the kids who are first coming, so I'm thinking about these 8th graders who were here today. They're going to be most impacted by that change. And, when we increase rigor, it's a good thing, but how are we supporting those kids along their journey? And so I don't know if this is a question or more of a statement of just working with Kaylin and with Brent to make sure if we need additional supports, I want to make sure those kids, especially the ones coming from, I can't imagine, going along my path through 8th grade. I didn't even take physics in high school. But now being like, hey, surprise, you're taking physics in 9th grade. Good luck, just to make sure. So I hope, and I trust that's something you're thinking about, but I hope that we're thinking about what additional supports do we need in terms of instructional assistance or just ways of making sure that we're supporting those teachers and those students through that transition of rigor from 8th to 9th grade.
That's going to be the tough one. And the tough that we looked at was that math component. Because to be successful in physics, somebody should be taking an algebra class at the time. So that's our area, which will then focus our summer school as well. Part of our strategic plan is algebra readiness by 9th grade. So our middle school, summer school is focused on math, algebra readiness for that. So that's something we are thinking, but that's going to be the transition there, the tricky part. But we will scaffold and support all of our students.
Awesome. And I hope you'll just, anything we can do to support that effort, Brent, from a funding, whatever, not that we have unlimited funds, but
They would like another science teacher at the high school.
Okay. It's a no big deal. Okay, good to know. Well, I mean, and these are all the nuances, right? When you talk about, you compare the state of Oregon to other states, these are the nitty-gritty details of when you ramp up rigor and standards and look at these types of things, and then you're looking at test scores and you're looking at graduation rates and things like that. These are all things that factor. So, thank you for the thorough report. Appreciate it. Student handbooks. Brent has told me there's not a whole lot changing, but this is something that we don't take action on, but they do bring before us to review student handbook updates. So those are there for your review. If you have any questions about that, feel free to shoot Brent an email or phone call, anything handbook related. Board policies to be deleted. So there's quite a lot. I am still, in all transparency, sort of sifting through. I've never seen this many policies up for deletion at one time before, other than when we were doing policy review stuff. So I'm still sifting through the summary, which is in your packet, to review of just why are there so many policies up for deletion. So just know that's in there. Is there any questions that have come up for you now that you have on those?
I don't have any questions now, but Denise sent out an email that Monday they're going to have that noon session that's going over these things, right? So yeah, so you can attend that virtual meeting on Monday if you want at noon, I think it is.
Could you send a calendar invite for that too? The Monday meeting, thank you.
I signed up and it will also be recorded, so.
Oh,
if
good.
that's something that we can get to, it'll be
Awesome.
nice to watch the recording of that.
Awesome. Yeah, and then just so you know, in terms of our process with these, we're going to put these on the consent agenda because there's so many of them and they're all just deletions. So just for a process for us, we'll put them on the consent agenda. But I do think it's important we understand why all of these are being deleted. So, yeah, yes. Yes. Yeah, it's definitely it's a legislative catch up for sure. Yeah. So okay, that's there for your review. Let us know if you have any questions on that. Next agenda is there for your review. Please reach out if you have any questions or concerns about that. And we are adjourned.